Hey everyone, Dr. Frunky here with an awesome new knife consult for you on the Shirogorov and Dmitry Sinkevich collaboration, Pero. This is a new design collab between Sinkevich Design and the Shirogorov team. Most recently, you can go back and see my video on the Shirogorov Sigma, the previous collaboration between these two entities. Mr. Sinkevich being a custom knife designer from Belarus, he has a number of Shirogorov and ZT models that are currently available, and he makes a very unique and modern aesthetic. And most of his knives are instantly recognizable, and even if you didn't know it was his, you will see some of the design elements. And the Pero is no exception. It has a geometric handle shape. It has this unique pivot hardware. And then it features some of the things that Shirogorov and Dmitry have been trying to do, including this minuscule flipper tab, something similarly seen on the Sigma and was perhaps its greatest downfall. This knife could not be more different than the Sigma, and I will just say the Pero is not the Sigma 2. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get some vital signs on this knife. Up front, you have a blade of Vanax 37. You have almost 4 inches of blade. Really, you're coming in at about 3.8 inches. You would say, yeah, 3.8 inches of blade length right there. You've got about 8.6 inches of overall length. You've got a handle coming in around 4.85 inches and a grip area that's about the same because of the way that it's designed right here. I'm going to go ahead and pull out the calipers so we can see what we're looking at. The handle is coming in at 564 thousandths, just over half an inch, and the blade stock is 147 thousandths, so a little bit thinner right there. Let's go ahead and bring out another couple of knives for a size comparison. This is a Spyderco Para 2. And Para 3, Para 3 and Paramilitary 2 right here. You will see that the Pero is bigger than the Paramilitary 2. It is a full-size knife. Let me bring out another Russian knife for a little size comparison. This is a Kultrotech Zim. Both of these knives are here on loan from my good buddy Mike. He goes by Blue Man Blade on Instagram. Very generous of him to send actually all 3 of these knives. Take a look at what this cameo just is right here. The Black Snow Customs Mini Sabotage just came onto your screen right here. A true showstopper. Thank you, Mike, for sending all 3 of these along. Let me bring out one more knife for a relative size comparison. The Koenig Knives Arius. So it's about exactly the same size overall as an Arius, but you get a little bit more blade length and a little bit more compactness on the handle. So what are we working with here? Let's go ahead and break this knife down anatomically. Up front is this beautiful blade of Vanax 37. Vanax 37 being one of my favorite steels out there, period. It is a nitrogen-infused steel that is supposed to be similar in performance to Elmax that is properly treated. This is on the spectrum. It's made by Böhler Udenholm, and it is in the same ballpark as M390 and Elmax in terms of performance, but then you add to that the extra corrosion resistance of the nitrogen infusion, and you have an even better steel perhaps than any of them. It's one of my favorite steels. I had it on my F3R, and it performed admirably, and it never even dulled. It was an incredible thing. This features a clip point style grind with a flat grind. It has a beautiful fuller. One of the things that I like about fullers is if you can use them to open the knife. Obviously, this one sinks all the way into the handle, and it doesn't do that. So this one is purely a design element right there, and I do think that it is very handsome. It's a very good-looking blade. I have no complaints. It is ground extremely thin. Take a look at the taper of this area right here, how thinly ground it is, and it came with Shirogorov's signature mirror-polished finish on the edge. Super beautiful polished edge. Incredible sharpness on this. This has got to be one of the most beautiful blades that I've seen Shirogorov do in a very long time. It's like a modification of their standard line, giving it that extra bit of, I would almost say, American with that Bowie-style flair. I really like that a lot. Oh, goodness. Is this getting... this is all not focused right now. I don't know why that happened. Sorry about that, guys. Let's go ahead and go back here to the pivot and the flipper mechanism. I think this is an area that needs to be discussed on this knife. One of the problems that I had with the Sigma was that the flipper tab was tiny, and so in order to compensate for that, they gave it an extremely weak detent, so weak that that knife would easily come out of the handle, and I felt it was almost unsafe, and so I honestly didn't like it. This knife could not be more different. This goes all the way to the other side of the spectrum. If this was the Sigma with a light detent, here we have the Pero over here with a very strong detent. And as you've seen a couple of times, I have misfired this knife. That is not really a failure of anything except that the detent is too strong and the flipper is too small. Honestly, it works very well. It has a couple of jimps right there on there, and it does grab the finger well. If you get your finger well up here onto this flat area and you give it a light switch, it fires out with absolute authority. A push button is impossible. You're going to have to light switch this thing. It does have a very nice and strong detent though, and as you can hear, the knife fires out. That is a nice thing too. Something that is sort of a higher level knife guy thing is are the acoustics of a flipper knife. Much like the Andre Thorburn L36, which unfortunately I don't have here, it's out being tuned up by a friend. The acoustics of this knife are phenomenal. When you open the knife, it gives a nice hollow, resonant sound. It sounds like an instrument being opened, and I like that very much. It runs on the multi-row bearing system, which means that there are rows of 3 sets of ball bearings in a fixed washer. It's super nice. I really love their pivot system. It's extremely smooth. There we go again. I missed it because it's too strong. But it does drop close very smoothly and very nicely. The pivot hardware is this sort of custom looking geometric type thing. It's nice. It's an artistic focal point in an otherwise plain looking knife. They mirrored it on the other side. And of course they used the frickin' Sinkevich style hardware. So you have to find the tool, which maybe they make and maybe they charge you a lot of money for. So not a huge fan of the proprietary hardware. That was also a problem on the Sigma. So right here, you're going to notice that there is an exposed detent track. This is something that is an automatic deal breaker for some people. I don't find it too offensive on this knife. It's rather hidden right here. However, you do have to be aware that if your knife gets dirty, you need to pay attention to cleaning that detent track so you don't get a gritty action. The lockup is done via a subframe lock. Much like the Sigma, it has a titanium insert with a steel lock bar insert. So this is a pretty complex mechanism right here with a titanium arm fixed into the frame. You can see, just like on the Sigma, there are some screws under the clip holding that frame onto the carbon fiber scale. Really onto the carbon fiber frame. It's bolted onto there, and then it has its own spring tension and then a lock bar insert. There is a ceramic detent as well. There is a titanium back spacer that you can see is raised. It does not provide any hot spots. It protects you from the blade. It's got a titanium clip that actually functions very well. There's a nice amount of ramp because of the way that the handle is contoured right there. It actually opens up that ramp and allows for a larger amount of material to enter the mouth of the clip. And then it's not the tallest clip, but it's tall enough for most pants. It's going to ride relatively low. This is actually a pretty solid clip. A nice amount of spring to it, just the right amount of tension. I don't think I mentioned the handles here. I kind of went from the pivot straight to the hardware right there. But take a look at this beautiful carbon fiber work. This is something that certainly catches the eye. Oh my gosh, the full carbon fiber scale right here, geometrically done, much like the pivot. It matches very nicely the overall aesthetic. In the hand, the handle is okay. I'll call the ergonomics okay. It's not ultra comfortable. It's not ultra secure. There's no protection from sliding forward on the knife. The jimping on the top of the blade is essentially useless. It's rather smooth with not a significant amount of traction generated. There is not a finger choil area right here, and this does not provide significant traction either. The butt of the handle does fit into the hand very well, and your fingers wrap around this little swell. This provides for excellent traction in terms of the knife pulling it out in a forward direction. But what it does do is provide for some rather sharp angulations at the back that I'm not going to call hot spots, but they're certainly not comfortable in the hand. That's why I say the ergonomics are only okay. These back corners are a bit sharp, especially right here and then right here, and it just, in my hand, kind of pokes the fat of my hand right here as I'm holding the knife, and it's just a bit uncomfortable. That's a minor thing. The thing about these knives, the thing about the Shirogorov limited edition Sinkevich collabs is that they're ridiculously expensive. This knife was $1,500 new. Maybe it was more than that, but maybe it was almost like $1,550. Guys, we're getting into sort of a category of knives that did not previously exist. This is not a custom knife. This is essentially a production knife. It is a limited edition. It's like a ZT limited edition knife coming out of Shirogorov for $1,500. What we see happen is that people buy into these knives. They win them in the lottery from recon1.com, which is the only place that you can buy these. They win them and then they flip them immediately for $300 or $400 more than that. And that seems to be the game with these Shirogorov limited editions. This is a spectacular knife, but for $1,500, $1,600, I can get full custom knives. Almost all of my knives that I have that are truly special to me cost significantly less. I could buy this one and this one for that price. I could pretty much buy these two or these two for that same price. And these are timeless knives. These are classic, custom, hand-built knives. I just have a hard time justifying these ever-increasing costs coming out of Shirogorov. I love Shirogorov knives. They're great. But I don't know if I can get behind a $1,600 knife from Shirogorov anymore because there's no secondary market for these things. Some people buy them in those initial rushes and they spend extra money, but then inevitably the prices drop because everyone realizes it's a production knife with flaws and they move on to the next thing. And so it's a special knife. If you love Shirogorov and you need to have this in your Shirogorov collection, you will not be disappointed. It is a well-made knife. It is very beautifully finished, and it has a very nice artistic appeal. As a functional EDC piece, as you've seen, I've misfired this thing a number of times during this video, not on purpose. I don't feel that this is a nice solution. These flipper tabs are too small. I appreciate the artistic aesthetic of them, but both the Sigma and the Pero have sort of missed the boat and made it more of a difficulty in having these smaller flipper tabs. It's a very nicely made knife. You know, it's not worth $1,600 though. It's just not. I just don't. I don't see where that's coming from, guys. I really don't. That's just that's like $1,000 more than it probably should be, and it's just because it has that logo on it. So that's my opinion, guys. This is a great knife. I wouldn't buy it. I'm not gonna. Thank you, Mike, for letting me borrow this. I'm going to send it back. If you guys have any questions, leave some comments down below. If you appreciate my videos, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Click like down below. Follow me on Instagram as Dr. Frunky. Go ahead and find my friend Mike, who very generously sent me these 3 knives. He goes by @Bloominblade on there, and we are part of the Knife Life podcast together as well, so you can check us out on there. Thank you guys for watching. Also, go over and check out my Patreon if you want to help support this channel. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, this is Dr. Frunky saying, take care.